Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. I have back on the show Nick Giles, as well as Marineka Bowman, and we are going to talk about a kangaroo court and intentional infliction of emotional distress. So we have a lot to talk about. And people always wonder what a kangaroo court is. Now, I'm getting this off of Wikipedia. A kangaroo court is a court that ignores recognized standards of law or justice, carries little or no official standing in the territory within which it resides, and is typically convened ad hoc. A kangaroo court may ignore due process and come to the predetermined conclusion. The term may also apply to a court held by a legitimate judicial authority which intentionally disregards the court's legal or ethical obligations. And here is a picture. It shows a session of the People's Court in Nazi Germany, a kangaroo court that conducted show trials of political enemies. I will show you the picture. You can see it there. It also says a kangaroo court could also develop when the structure and operation of the forum result in an inferior brand of adjudication. A common example of this is when institutional disputants, repeat players, have excessive and unfair structural advantages over individual disputants, which are one-shot players. So I welcome you back, Nick and Marineka. And how are you doing this morning?
Fine, thank you. And yourself, Miriam?
Good morning, thank you.
So what do you think of these kangaroo courts that we all have been subject to?
They're out of control, whether it's civil or criminal. It doesn't matter from all the stories that I've heard and experienced myself. And then a lot of times you can get criminal coming out of the civil. And then I've even heard of places where the judge was presiding over the criminal and the family court.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Right. And it shouldn't be.
No.
I'm the type, I believe it. Family court should just be abolished and go into civil court. And
Absolutely.
if a criminal matter pops up, then we just stop the process and handle the criminal matter and get that out of the way, with a jury of 12.
Oh, I absolutely agree, and that's part of what I plan on doing with the Federal Family Rights Act. Is those type of things will be included with the abolishment of family court, and then an actual judicial court system with, like you were saying, jurors and so on and so forth. Generally, they like to give you 6, no matter what it is, but you have the right to 12, and so the like with any other court proceeding, the person in the family court that wants 12, if they request 12, they should get 12, because there's no reason they shouldn't when they request it. And so, but obviously, if you in this kangaroo court that we have called family court, you can't request 6, let alone 12. And so anybody that walks into this court immediately, it doesn't matter whether you're the winner or loser, everybody's rights were violated the moment you started trial. And so, well, actually, even going into it, there was a lot of rights violations, but as of, not having right representation in a jury and stuff like that, not there.
And also with Marineka's case, I'm sure as soon as she walked in there, her human rights violation started immediately.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I was never asked if I waiver my right to an attorney from the beginning. I never asked if I would like to have an attorney. Never once in the process. Never. So yes, my rights was violated. And my child rights was violated.
Yeah. That's the other rights that are violated
from the beginning, because they feel, and this, I hear this over and over again, because she just three just five. She don't have no rights. You know, she can't speak for herself and all of this stuff, but she still have rights. She's still a human being. She's still a person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Speaking of which, you know, when we get more into IIED and the people that have done this and anybody that might do it going forward, list your children as plaintiffs too, because you have the right to sue on their behalf. And then so that's extra lawsuits on everybody that's involved with this. And then talk about opening a can of worms. And
That
so
is, yeah.
And personally, I'd rather throw the claim for myself aside and just bring my kids into it, you know, because when it comes down to all this kind of stuff, it's abuse on all of us, but especially the children. Because we have more mental and emotional fortitude than they do, and then especially when it comes to the brainwashing and stuff that goes along with all of this. So
yes.
So, you know, explain intentional infliction of emotional distress, IIED.
Well, IIED is a civil tort from common law and is a gap filler tort. IIED is an acronym for intentional infliction of emotional distress. It's also sometimes called a tort of outrage. Now, also, like the acronym says, it's intentional infliction. But there also is negligent, which would be NIED, but it's not necessarily written into the tort law, but it's used a lot, especially like in employment cases. And so because this law can even be used in employment. It can be used in any case where, I mean, somebody crashing into you in your car, you name it, let alone this kind of situation. But since IIED is a filler tort, it fills the gaps of other laws and claims, examples like defamation, like the Johnny Depp trial showed in the state of Virginia. That was an IIED case, and he used defamation as the basically the grounds for a trial to move forward. You know, or psychological abuse, which is also called parental alienation, but I prefer to use psychological abuse because that's exactly what's going on. And frivolous lawsuits that come at you, like with Marineka, where she had 8 straight claims that were denied, and then all of a sudden, magically, on no grounds, the 9th one we're going to go ahead and proceed with. That right there is frivolous lawsuits, and that could be, especially if it's causing you emotional distress, which, like, even if you're putting out money, that can cause emotional distress. Malicious prosecution is another one. Negligent misrepresentation. I mean, it goes on and on the different types of things that you use to fill the gap with. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, IIED, generally involves some kind of conduct that is so terrible that it causes emotional trauma to the victim. In such cases, the victim can recover damages from the person causing the emotional distress. Courts are more likely to allow recovery when emotional distress is accompanied by some form of physical injury resulting in defendant's conduct, like employment, for example. But when you look up a lot about IIED, you'll find mainly employment stuff because people don't know about this. And so it's not applied, but if you go back to the words intentional infliction of emotional distress, that can be any kind. And so that's why you've got to justify what kind it is. And then now if they accept it, now you have to prove it to a jury. Not all offensive conduct qualifies as intentional infliction of emotional distress. However, even people in civilized society must necessarily deal with a certain level of rude or offensive conduct. When it comes, the conduct arises at truly reprehensible level, though recovery from the resulting emotional trauma becomes available. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, the elements. While some states' specific rules for IIED do differ, the following tort law elements are fairly common. Generally, emotional distress is extreme or outrageous conduct that is intentional or reckless, which would be negligent also. Reckless would be negligent. Causes severe, that's why we say negligent, because it says intentional or reckless, so we'll call it negligent. Causes severe emotional distress and emotional injury, and possible also bodily harm. Like you were even threatened that they were going to kill you, or like my ex driving down the wrong side of the road into oncoming traffic with me in the car several times.
Wow. Wow.
And but in addition, parties may sometimes recover from emotional harm under circumstances where extreme outrageous conduct wasn't even directed at them. Typically, this kind of claim involves extreme or outrageous conduct towards the claimant's family while the claimants were present. This type of claim varies even more widely from states. That the basic intention of infliction tort, but there are some that generate elements of cause of action, and those can be like extreme and outrageous conduct directed at a third party or third person, intentional or reckless, and then also causes severe emotional distress. And then so those are some of your elements. I got some more I can go into, but if you guys want, we can talk a little bit more about some of what you guys have experienced when it comes to this kind of stuff. And would it be something that you guys would do?
Was this filed in Marineka's case or no?
Not yet, no. That's something she's got to decide to do, which that I'm glad, that's a good question, because in order to do this, IIED is basically, in layman's terms, it's a personal injury claim. And because it's a personal injury claim, and then a lot of times it's not just against your ex, it's against officials. And in fact, your ex is a lot of times just a puppet of the official, like the judge, for example. He might have the judge manipulated, but the judge is still using them. And so getting another personal injury lawyer to practice this type of case, is not likely, unless you find some lawyer that's been through it already, and they're willing to like even travel and that kind of thing to come practice for you on your behalf, because they're more of an advocate now, which they're out there. Those are out there. You just got to find them, and I'm sure you guys know some of them. But yeah, and so that's one of your main problems, and because of that, basically you're faced with having to fight the case on your own in pro se, and that can be difficult for you to do, because you've got to separate yourself from the situation. And Marineka and I were talking the other day, and I'll let her give you an example with her case, what she's trying to get herself prepared for and stuff. If you like, Marineka.
Yes, Marianne, I am planning to move forward with the IIED. Like I said, I already prepared my mind to separate myself from all the emotional and everything that I need to write. Like you said, facts don't have feelings. Facts don't have feelings at all, because these people keep harming you and keep taking you through the mill, taking your child through the mill. You can handle some of the stuff barely handle some of the stuff as an adult, much as bringing a child through all this emotional turmoil for nothing, for no reason, because in my case, it's not like I deny, like I mentioned previously, it's not like I ever denied the father from seeing or meeting this child, or was withholding anything from him. So for him to move from 0 to 100 and want full custody and all the allegations. It was just crazy. And then, yes, he's being used as a puppet. I honestly believe that because, like I mentioned, he had the same lawyer, Laura Brooks, for the last 3 or 4 years of our case. And this woman's probably what, 350 to 450 probably an hour. And he does not work for that much money to keep her. So basically, they're using him as a puppet. He think he's outsmarting him in some of the stuff, but he's being used as a puppet. Because remember, I write all of the complaints against them. So they have all this vendetta against me for writing the ACLU, for writing the governor, and all of that. So they're just basically using him and using my child as a weapon to get back to me.
And this happens more frequently than parents know. And also, they don't even know this is happening when they're going through this as well. They don't realize until you step back, maybe years later, and realize this.
Yeah. That's why yesterday I mentioned you have to take your emotion, you have to step back, you have to regroup, re-strategize, and refocus. And, take your emotions out of it, because when you have the emotions all in it, yes, I know as parents, we want to save our children, we want to protect our children, but we also have to take care of ourselves, mentally, physically, and emotionally. We have to take ourselves out of this. And then that's the only way we will be able to see the chess game that they claim that they're playing. You know what I mean?
Well, exactly. Like you said, you got to, separate yourself from it. But like in traditional therapy, they'll tell you, we'll call, if you're ever in this situation, you're in a crisis. Okay. And when, in a professional setting, when a crisis happens, they say you need to focus on you. And then you might even go, well, my kids, I'm worried. You can't help them until you help yourself. So focus. Right now, it's about you. You need to focus on you. And in a lot of these cases, when you go into this court, it's draining you mentally, emotionally, and financially. And then a lot of times these alienators will get co-alienators, and then so they got their income, the co-alienator income, and then 60% of your income, and you can't afford a lawyer. And so, this is where you got to go, okay, I got more. We talked about this yesterday. I got more going out than I got coming in. And so you need to step back and stop that process, because it's going to lose. You're going to lose. You might as well either just agree now or give up, walk away or something. But to go jump through all their hoops, you're just it's a losing battle. And so you got to stop it. And then you take that money and you, first you, like Marineka had said the other day, you kind of just get yourself regrouped, and I call it reassessing too. So regroup and reassess, and then like I've said to a lot of people, this is like an attack. So let's look at this from a military standpoint, and in a military fight, I call it the 3 R's. When you're under attack, that means you're in a defensive posture. And so this is not a good place to be ever. And so what you do is everything that, or the one thing that most people won't do: retreat, run. And then you go back to a place where you find safe. And again, keeping from a military standpoint, now that you're in a safe zone, you reassess. And part of your reassessments, sending like people back on recon to get now your numbers of all their troops and military equipment and all that, getting intel basically, and then report back. And then now we'll finish the reassessment, and then we'll go to the third stage of the R's, the third R, which would be redeploy. And now you put them on the defensive posture. And so that's what this IIED can technically do, is you retreat from the Kangaroo Court, and then you go into a court where you can get some jurors. And you might have to even actually start by engaging in their Kangaroo Court to kind of set them up, get yourself some evidence to bring over there of why you just ran from it. Don't just like retreat immediately. Go ahead and engage in the fight some, and let them violate your rights, and then now drop it and then go away. So I'm not saying just drop it and run if you identify it. Let go through the hoops a little bit, but be careful of what you say and what you did, because they might set you up criminally. And if they do, the good news is that'll cost them more in the long run. False imprisonment and malicious prosecution. I think I said that earlier, and so on and so forth. So, but that's nobody wants that, even if you can recover it somewhere down the road. You can't recover time with money.
No.
There's just no way you get it. And so, but yeah.
What do you mean when you say co-alienators? Is that the same term as flying monkeys?
Yeah, that may be so. Yeah, the Wicked Witch of the West is flying monkeys, but a lot of times you can have a whole bunch of co-alienators, but I'm talking about like where they go move on to their next. You were their last victim, they're moving on to their next. They find somebody that has, that they don't care one thing about that person. They're just there because they need the support financially and a place to stay and so on and so forth in a lot of cases. And so, especially in a breakup, most people don't. I mean, in a divorce, maybe if there was a house involved that was purchased or something, but if that's only like maybe half the nation, the other half are renting easily. And so pretty much in a divorce or split up, neither one of you are soon to have a place. And so but yeah, and so they usually latch on to somebody quickly, especially if they're a narcissist. They move. In fact, they might have had their target clear ahead of leaving you, and then parental alienation sometimes is even a decade before the hatchet drops, and the hatchet may have never dropped had you not resisted somewhere along the line and started calling them on their shit or whatever, and start making your way out, and then the hammer starts dropping. And so, because I've seen that too.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing to retreat to, is because then you're able to identify the key players. Like that's what I was able to identify, all of them. People some staff at the daycare, some of them at the courts, some of them at the counselor one, the visitation center, have a few of them. So I pretty much know a lot of the co-alienators. I pretty much know. They show themselves, the way they treat you, the way they try to humiliate you, you're able to identify them. But I don't say, you cannot feed in and engage with them either, So you go to the daycare, they're ready to.
The thing
Don't
that
say anything.
I notice, I mean, I don't know if this happened to you, Marineka, but, we had a horrible psychologist testify, and it was hard to do a rebuttal because she had to go back to her office to, keep up with her appointments with other clients. So she essentially made another false accusation and walked out of the courtroom. It's like, what you can't stop it.
Well, Marianne, in my case, no psychologist never. One psychologist did testify based on the co-parenting that we had prior. The first one, he testified because I wasn't comfortable, whatever. I don't know what is his purpose, but besides him, no one testified in my case. Everybody else writes statements and send into my ex-attorney. So no professional ever testify in my case. So all the pictures that my ex produced and the videos that my daughter was being touched and all of that, no police officer testify in my case, no psychologist testify in my case, neither her doctor testify in my case, no daycare worker, nobody testify. Only a few people that his attorney chose as witness, and these people are all write-in statements. So anybody could have write those statements and said, oh, it's Tom, Jane, Sam. So nobody never, ever testify in my case. Not even the DFS worker in the first instance, not even DFS. None of these people ever testify in my case. So when we first went to court was myself, him and his attorney, his father when he was alive at the time. They was trying to bring his cousin in and his son in, but some reason they didn't get in because his son was to come to say how horrible of a stepmother I was. And this one psychologist, but nobody else testify in my case. So all the time when I was accused of abuse and all of that, no professional said concrete. And all the way up until I mean, that's in the beginning. Going along the case, I mean, June of this year was the first time DFS ever testify in my case, and there were a bunch of crooks anyway. You know, they were all co-alienators too, because they're the one who encouraged him to start the case because somebody complained, made a report to DFS regarding statements my daughter made to them. You know, they say that I'm abusing the system, but other than that, all the time when I was going back and
You're
forth,
abusing the system.
all the time when I was going back and forth, there was no professional, absolutely none, not even our doctor. I'm not sure if my daughter doctor is aware of some of these things that is going on. No, nobody testified. So, and all of this went through court. Not one psychologist, not one doctor, not one police officer, none of that physically, other than what people that his attorney had written down on paper.
You know, and that's also, you know, I'm not a lawyer, but sounds like another form of no due process.
Oh, absolutely. It happens time and time again. And like I was explaining yesterday, a lot of what happens with all this due process and rights violations that we've discussed are actually happening outside the courtroom. But when you get into the courtroom, there's far more that happen. Mm-hmm. And so, and just think of how much she's discussed on her case, which is mainly outside of the courtroom. Yesterday, even when she had said where she was talking and telling the judge she didn't have a lawyer, she asked if she could get a lawyer, and they wouldn't. They denied that and kept moving forward. And that's just you have the right to an attorney. Mm-hmm. Again, they violate many rights, but the majority of them fall in the Miranda rights within the courts, and so that means you got no due process.
No, none.
And so most of these court cases are actually invalid. Why? Because many rights were violated. Mm-hmm. They should all be adjudicated.
Yeah, and it's all taking place in an illegitimate courtroom. This is not even real. This is not a real courtroom. It's just it's appalling this has gone on this long, and how many families have suffered through all of this. And also, Marineka, with your case, who knows how long it's going to be dragged out.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, no, that's what I said. Mm-hmm. Go, sorry.
Go ahead,
no, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say the average is about 7 years that I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. No lower than that. The people that are any lower than that, they're still kind of going through it. And so, but it's usually 7 or more years when it comes down to the length of time. I've heard of 12 and even longer, actually 20 some, because some parents never get, you know, how like there's that social stigma. Well, when they grow up, the connection will happen. Mm-hmm. And that's not always the case. Mm-hmm. And some parents are beyond 20 years of alienation because of this. Mm-hmm. And so.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's just so sad, very, very sad that, this go on, because in the long run, it's the kids who suffer the most. The kids who really suffer the most. And my daughter have already learned how to adapt. Mm-hmm. Basically, she learned how to deal with abuse. She learned how to play the game. She know what to do when she's at my house. She know what to do when she's at daddy house. She know what to do if anybody question her. She already have it down pat at 5, Mm-hmm. And watching her behavior now that she is acting out everything to be disrespectful towards me, it's hard. It's very hard. I don't know. It's very, very hard. And she kind of another thing that I noticed with my daughter, they're using her as a co-alienator too. She reports back everything that is said in my home. I mean, I don't question her. I don't, get involved with what's going on at his house. I don't ask anything, but she reports back everything, everyone I talk to. Now I noticed something new with her. If she overheard me talking to anyone. She want to know the person's first name, last name, and their phone number. It's like she working with the CIA. Yes. So yes, they have her well schooled. They have her well schooled.
And
Well,
that constitutes child abuse.
It is.
yeah.
That's the child psychological abuse. And that was going on in my case as well. The child would lie about something, whatever, and to the alienating parent, they'll tell a lie on you.
Yep.
I believe that's called splitting, because they have to cope in that household where they are being psychologically abused. So they have to just tell lies to survive in there. And it takes a toll on them, as well as you.
Yeah. And that's what my daughter doing. She's telling a lot of lies, basically to survive and not to offend and I guess to fit in, or, just it's a lot of lies going around. And her father paint that picture. So when she tells anything, so if anybody question her, my own attorney said that, the kid is a liar. I don't know why you keep reporting stuff. That kid is a liar. I was done with her. You don't tell people, even if you feel that she's not just lying because she wants to lie, she's lying because she's been taught to lie. She was not a child like that. She's just 5. She had no reason to lie and protect and defend anybody.
No, it's not normal behavior of a child that young, along with some of the other behaviors you've discussed with me.
And I want to say one other thing that, that I took a long time to process. She and I we were going out and she was in the car and she said, "Mommy, let's stop at this playground and play." And I said to her, this area is kind of not safe because they do a lot, they have a lot of shooting in this area and stuff like that, and I don't want us to stop here. I don't feel comfortable. It's not safe for us to play here, but I will find you a playground. So she was like, "Oh yeah, guns send people to heaven. You know that, Mommy? Guns send people to heaven." So I'm trying to pick her mouth, like, "What do you know about guns sending somebody to heaven?" She said, "Yes, my daddy tell me guns send people to heaven." And I said, "You know what a gun look like?" And she just bent her head. And I said, "No, I want you to raise your head and look me in the eye. You know what a gun look like?" And she was like, "Yes." So I said, "Where did you see a gun?" She said, "My daddy." "I know you have a gun. I don't know if he had it registered now. I know that he has purchased a gun during the marriage. So now you have this gun in front of this child. Who knows what he told her? She knows that if she said anything, gun is going to send you to heaven. But, you say anything, they're going to say you're making up stuff. Like they said that I'm making up all kinds of stories because I don't want to pay child support, or because my child is being taken away from me and all of that stuff.
Well, it's good that you kind of don't say it for when you go into the court, other courts. Then we can now bring that in and have that question before they've tried to undo that with her or anybody else. And so that it's kind of good that you hadn't saved that. That's an ace up your sleeve for sure. And so like when you go forward and we request a court psychologist through IIED, for example, that of your choosing now, and then have that court psychologist question her on that issue and come out with it, whatever they can come out with on it, and then you just keep the way you've been until that day comes.
I'm also
that way there's no alert on that whatsoever.
Right. I'm also a big fan of affidavits. I don't know if you remember the date and time she said that to you, but I would go to a notary and this is the statement, what she said, and then just sign your name.
I remember the dates and time, the same day when I was going to file that paperwork in the court.
Because that could be used as an exhibit.
And
absolutely.
And
well, as probable cause to get the court psychologist to come in, absolutely.
And DFS should know that something was wrong, because one time she said that I beat her with a knife. There's a knife that they call it, the guy the DFS worker asked me about this knife. Is a specific, I don't remember the name of the knife, but when I Google it, I had to Google it because I didn't know what type of knife it was. But when I Googled it, it was a knife that used by hikers and hunters, mainly used specifically for hunting and hiking. They use these knives. And I was like, what? So first my friend was like, what? But then afterwards he was like, you know what? Because he was in the military, it dawned on him, said, he's familiar with that knife. Like, what's wrong with this, you know? So I guess you're trying to say that he showed her a knife. I don't know. But these people, there's something else. But right there and then they should have known. So he came to my bathroom looking for the knife. So, and right away, if you ask me what this knife was and I didn't know, I had to Google to see what the knife was and what it's used for. You know, it's something that I'm not familiar with. Right there and then you should have, and I think I told the DFS worker at the time, I said, right there and then, this is indication that this child is being coached.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I have to go and Google what this knife is, and she's saying it, you know.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
But all of them went along with him and just going along. Like the last worker that they claimed quit, when with all the black and blue marks, when they says mosquito bite her, the girl was like, no, this is totally abuse. So I guess she didn't want to lie for them or go along with the game, so she quit. She said, you know, this is only going on because he works with the state. I don't know what that have to do with anything. What that have to do with anything? He's above the law. He's just a DMV investigator. He's not above the law. For my short time at the police department, I saw 2 police officers get arrested. They weren't above the law. Mm-hmm. So what makes him? But you see, like, again, this come back to show you he's being used as a puppet because they want to get at me. But I'm not going to engage with them. And this is not going to go on for 7 years. And once my child keep lying on me, it's hard as it is, and it's my only child. I'm going to leave it in God's hands. And I tell the DFS work, I am going to leave it in God's hands. It's not like I'm going to go ahead and file the IIED, but I have no control. Why fight for her? And they're going to withhold her from me, and they have her lying against me. And before I go into jail or something, like mm-hmm. Why fight over something that I have no control over? And they're using my child.
Mm. Well, and you said something yesterday about one of the, I think it was a therapist or a lawyer or somebody had said about, do you know how to play chess? And it's like, what the hell? Weren't we told when we were younger not to use your kids as pawns? If we're playing chess, right. Then my kid's being used as a pawn. Thank you for the admission there.
Mm-hmm. These judges aren't even asking the right questions when they sequester these kids with their, with the attorneys have to be present. The judge should really ask, who drove you here? That's the key. Who drove you here? And what did they tell you to say? That's what they should really be asking right off the bat.
Right. That's a good approach there. Yeah. What were you told to say on your way here? That's the first question. That's a great first question.
It's so true, because my daughter was questioned at the CAC, the Child Advocacy Center, twice, and they had her father accompany her. They had the father take her, right? So what do you think he's going to tell her? Just exactly what he's telling her to say and to do.
And that's so sad for her, because as she gets older, depending on how this all turns out, she's going to be really confused and have feelings of guilt or feeling she doesn't know what to do with.
Mm-hmm. He's something, yeah, she is going to be. Even look at, like, she just had a birthday and he told her not to take no presents or anything from me. I went and keep a birthday party at a school, and he told her not to take the bags, not to, to do anything. And I know she was very hurt. I know. But you think he's doing the right thing. They think they're doing the right thing. But everybody who want to label me that I have mental health issues and all of that, I want them I want this table to turn on them. Like, let me just practice for, if you want to play. Let me give you my situation and somebody take your kids from me. You know, let somebody take your kids and all the things that you put in and throwing onto me and my child. Let them do it to you. And let me see if you're going to act normal and you wouldn't act like you have mental health issues. Some the things that people put you through, they themselves would not be able to handle it.
Yeah.
The thing is, funny you should mention that, even though it's not funny, but I was in Superior Court and I approached the opposing attorney and I said to him, you know, what would you do if your wife was doing this to you? And he looked at me and he paused and I saw a glimmer of whatever you want to call it, compassion, empathy. And then right back, he went into the sociopathic stare and he walked away from me. So I just don't think, even if
gaslighting.
Yeah. You can't reason with them. You couldn't even reason with the opposing attorney. I tried.
No.
Yeah, his attorney, she didn't, even when we went for mediation and I didn't even know why they just sent it back to mediation, she didn't make no effort. She didn't want to, she just have this notion that he have sole custody, sole residency. She don't have to mediate anything. She didn't want to. She had no intention. She wrote up this paper that she want me to sign my kid over, give up all my information and move on. Who are you?
Right.
Who are you? She didn't have no intention mediating or coming to no proper agreement, no feasible agreement with anything. She did not mediate. She just want to war. I don't think she don't deserve to be no family attorney, because and I think she want to be a judge. I hope she would never. My prayer, I would stay on my knees. I'm telling you that she would never be a judge. You could imagine how many kids' lives she would destroy more in Delaware.
Practicing law at any degree at this point.
My child at the end of this is going to be very messed up emotionally, because my daughter loves me. My daughter loves me. We have a bond. Like, when she comes over, from 2 months, even though my daughter had a crib and she have her own room, we always sleep together. We go everywhere together. We do everything together. And all the educational stuff, that exposure, it's me. I'm the one. She was in swimming early at a very tender age and all of this other stuff. This child, she's very talented. My daughter is very talented. She's that very outgoing kid. He don't have her involved in anything. I wanted to get her into dancing this summer because my friend was paying for it. He bullied his way that I would not get summer, so she wouldn't be in dancing. But you have her involved in nothing.
And the courts refuse to see this.
And all these people encouraging him to do this and do that, the kids in soccer shots, the kids in that, the kids in that, the kids in everything. And here you are dumping your money into the court and your child is not involved in anything. Look, I had her involved in soccer shots and where the school in her daycare. All he had to do is give this child her t-shirt. He refused to do that. So sometimes she go to soccer shop without a t-shirt, or sometimes she didn't go. He keep her home. Because wasn't his money paid for it. So you think you're spiting me, but you're not spiting me. Nothing she's involved in. Nothing. No program, no extra, nothing. Since he started getting the child support money, he went and joined jujutsu. He could have gotten her into a class. Nobody taken her as extra socialization, like he tell a psychologist that he taken her extra socialization to meet other kids. She's in the daycare from 6 till 6 or 5 whenever he pick her up, because he have nobody else to take care of her. Like that. Yes, even though the stepmother is there, the stepmother is not that involved. They don't even comb my daughter hair if I don't comb her hair. They don't wash her hair if I don't wash her hair. You're not helping her learn her numbers, letters, nothing. All of those things that she was taught at my house, she forgot everything because they have other things on her mind. She have to remember to ask people their name, their phone number, and all of this stuff. She don't have time to remember her alphabet, know how to write, how to nothing. She have big stuff to remember now.
That is so sad.
Yes. So I don't know. Nick, let me don't cut it. Nick, you could say.
All good. No worries. I was gonna say though, going forward, we should do a show on going to the deeper points of psychology and parental alienation, and then also how to use it in tort law, because a lot of us are experiencing that through the family courts, and so and it's basically the family court's fault that parental alienation even happens, because it should be able to be identified. I mean, anybody can. When you read there's about 17 qualifying factors of it, and so if those things exist, you should be able to identify it, just like a judge should be able to identify frivolous lawsuits and so on and so forth, that they're not because in Marineka's motion to the court, that several times of them coming at her, the judge should have, after the second or third time, should have said this is frivolous, instead of allowing it to go up to 8, 9 times and then finally accepting it. So there's a law that judge should have invoked and did not on her behalf if the judge was being impartial. And you're never getting that in these cases.
And I also think be very careful when you go in there, because on the first day, if the opposing side calls out parental alienation and even the judge calls out parental alienation, your case is over. They've already set you up. It's a big setup.
That's why it does disengage. No one to engage. That's why it does disengage from them. Especially in my case, I already know what it is. I already see the key players. Like I said, I know everything is stacked against me. So why engage with them? And like you said, I didn't just walk away. I give them a reason. How they respond to it, it's on them. You understand? How they respond to what was sent to the court, it's on them. Because all their faults and everything, I give them a reason. They have a reason why I'm not engaging with them. So I'm not just walking away without letting them know. They know. So like you're right, people, when they're walking away, they have to just don't walk away. Say why you're walking away, and make sure what you're saying is factual. And one thing I wanna say, that I think I did mention this to Nick this morning, people have to document date and time, document. Be careful what you put in on Facebook, because a lot of people have been tampering with my Facebook. Like yesterday, someone changed my name on my Facebook. I don't even know how, so don't put anything on Facebook. And certain things with your court document, make sure you get floppy drive. Nobody get access to those things, especially if you want to go ahead with the IIED. Make sure you get all your information, and don't share your information with anybody. Make sure those things are confidential to only you and who is helping you, because people will just destroy information. So very, very careful what you're sharing, who you're sharing it with, and how you're saving your information.
Right. And I think it's also important when this happens, sometimes you get sucked into these family courts. Just don't even put anything on social media, because they will twist it around and use it on you.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yes, they will. They sure will. So this is just a horrible position. And I know people don't want to get involved in this case because they're saying, oh, this is gonna happen to me. I was that one person. I didn't say it was never gonna happen to me. I didn't expect that this was gonna happen to me. I was in law enforcement. I mean, I'm not a perfect person, but I pretty much live a decent life. You know, I'm educated. I have good jobs, good career. I have my own home and all of these things. Who would have thought this was going to happen to me?
Mhm.
And just, you know, who could have thought that this would have happened to you, Marianne, and other people that, you know, the podcasts that I listen to, you know, none of us thought this was going to happen to us, but it happened.
Mhm.
And that's what people need to get out of. Oh, this not going to happen to me. This didn't happen to a family member, or this, you know, this have nothing to do with me. I don't know this person, or, you know, we have to come out of that selfishness, because anything could happen at any moment.
You're right. You're right.
That's why we have so much messed up children in society.
And another horrible thing to say, I'm going to sound horrible, but we have children that are growing up to be basically unmarriageable.
Yes.
Because there are kids that have come from intact families, marriages, and they go to meet this kid now with a personality disorder caused by family court.
Yeah.
What do you think's going to happen, especially if that kid from family court hasn't gotten any psychological help?
Which is usually the case.
Yes. And this is why the family court wheels keep turning. They are doing this to our children on purpose so they can create more cases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's intentionally broke. Absolutely. They want a mentally unstable society.
Oh yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm so hurt about my kid, but like I said, with everything, for me to able to move forward with everything else, I have to detach myself from a lot of stuff, how I feel, you know. It's not like I'm being cold to my child, or I don't care about her, but I also have to take care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, I wouldn't be no good to help her. I would not be able to put myself in a better position to fight for her, you know. So I have to take care of myself. I really do. And this is such an unfortunate situation for my child, from growing up in such a happy space to now come into this. Our world has been turned into turmoil.
Yes.
But you know, at the end of the day, as much, and like you know, one day I was feeling like, Arr. But Toby sent me, I'm not going to share because I don't know if he won. I didn't ask his permission. He sent me such a beautiful letter. Toby Sure, that went on your show.
Oh yes, he's
and he
fabulous.
was talking about forgiveness and stuff like that. And I'm working on forgiveness, because at the end of the day, is the father that put my child in this position when he didn't really need to. Even though, yes, the judge and all of them come into play, I hold him responsible. A father is there to protect, to love, not for you to put your child out there for others to destroy because of your own selfish gain.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
And now it turned to, it's not only your selfish gain, it's their selfish gain and benefit. You know, because the gal is getting, I check how much money the gal in Delaware get. They get like 75. When I add up everything that they get charged for, you could say like $450, $450 for how much appearance and plus for whatever they do. The gal went to what, 2 appearances, and oh, this case is like 800 pages. That's all you hear, and she's following along with what everybody else is saying. You haven't done anything to defend my child or to speak up, but you getting the money from the state. So this is money. This is for their personal gain now. Now you want me to go to counseling to pay. You want me to go to counseling, of course, that's money for them. So I'm, you know, at this point, you do what you need to do, and God is going to take care of the rest. You know, I had a praying grandmother. My grandmother prayed a lot. She stayed in the closet and prayed. And I'm going to go into that closet and pray for these people. I am going to. I said a lot of prayers before. I tell Nick laughed, and I told him, I said, Lord of mercy, if the Father was listening to some of my prayers that I prayed for these people, they would all be destroyed. But I learned to redirect my feelings, you know, because I need to work on me emotionally and everything to make me better from inside out. address how I feel about this whole situation,
Mm-hmm.
to be a better person, to better handle the situation. So yes, I'm gonna let it go for now. But yes, I will revisit it with the IIED.
Mm-hmm. And this will make you stronger, and this will also suck you into advocacy, because now, whether you like it or not, advocacy has chosen you, and you may have
Yes,
people coming to you shortly in about
yes.
a year or
Oh
so.
my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
But I'm glad I had you both back on, because I want you on again. Now, I know I interviewed you both yesterday, so I will put your contact information there
Okay.
in the podcast notes, but don't jump off, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marian Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here with Marineka Bowman and Nick Giles. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you.